Captain Zephyra touched the smooth crystal console with her long blue fingers. The ship's sensors showed another beautiful world below them. Green forests covered most of the land. Blue oceans sparkled under the system's yellow sun. It looked perfect for life. "Another garden world, Captain," said Science Officer Veltar from his station. His telepathic voice whispered directly into her mind, as was the way of the Villani people. The readings show rich plant life and clean water. No signs of intelligent life yet. Zephyra smiled. This was why she loved exploring space. The Galactic Confederation had sent her ship, the Harmony's Light, to find new worlds that could join their peaceful union. For 300 years, the Villani had been the best at this job. They were gentle, patient, and could speak mind to mind with almost any thinking creature. "Begin the standard scans," she ordered. "Check for any native species we should contact first." The bridge crew of 12 Villani worked quietly at their stations. Their ship was built for science, not war. Smooth white walls curved around them. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling. Everything was designed to feel calm and safe. Veltar's mental voice suddenly turned sharp with worry. "Captain, I'm getting strange readings from below the surface." "What kind of readings?" "Biosignatures, very large ones. And they're moving." Zephyra felt a chill run through her mind. In all her years of exploration, she had learned that moving biosignatures this big usually meant trouble. "How large?" "Each one is at least the size of our ship. And there are dozens of them." The ship's main computer spoke in its gentle female voice. "Warning, multiple large organisms detected beneath planetary surface. Estimated depth, 2 kilometers. Estimated length, 400 meters each." Zephyra stood up from her command chair. Her tall, thin body moved with the natural grace of her people. "That's impossible. Our long-range scans showed nothing that big." "Captain," called Navigation Officer Kesita from across the bridge, "I'm detecting energy buildups across the planet's surface. Something is powering up down there." Before Zephyra could respond, the ship shook violently. Sparks flew from several control stations. The lights flickered and went dim. "Report!" Zephyra shouted, both out loud and with her mind. "We're caught in some kind of tractor field," Kesta said, fear clear in her telepathic voice. "It's pulling us down toward the surface. I can't break free." "Engine room, give me full power." Engineer Harlech's panicked thoughts reached her. "The engines are fighting it, Captain, but whatever has us is too strong. We're losing altitude fast." The ship shook again, harder this time. Through the large view screen, Zephyra could see the planet's surface rushing up toward them. But now she could see that what looked like forests from far away were not trees at all. They were massive tentacles, reaching up from deep holes in the ground. "By the eternal light," whispered Veltar. "Captain, those aren't plants. They're some kind of organic technology. The whole planet. It's not a planet at all." Zephyra felt sick as the truth hit her. They had found a trap. Something had made this place look like a garden world to attract explorers like them. The ship crashed through the fake atmosphere and slammed into the surface. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Emergency lights came on, bathing everything in red. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Hull breach in sections 7 through 12, the computer announced. "Life support failing in those areas." Zephyra pulled herself back to her feet. Half her crew was injured, but they were all still alive. "For now." "Seal the breached sections," she ordered. "Get me a damage report." As her crew worked to save their ship, Zephyra stared at the view screen. Outside she could see they were in some kind of organic cave. The walls pulsed with a sickly green light. Thick tubes ran along the ceiling, carrying unknown fluids. "Captain," Veltar said, his mental voice barely a whisper. "I'm picking up thoughts, not like ours. Alien, hungry. They know we're here. Who are they? What do they want? I can't understand them completely, but they're old. Very old, and they've been waiting." A loud scraping sound came from outside the ship. Something was moving around their hull. Then came a new sound that made Zephyra's blood turn cold. It was drilling. "They're trying to get inside," Kesta said. The drilling stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the ship's alarms. Then a new sound started. A hissing, like air escaping, but it wasn't coming from their hull breach. "Captain," Engineer Harlech called from the engine room. "Something is pumping gas into the ship through the ventilation system. Is it poisonous?" "No, but..." "Captain, it's some kind of nerve agent. It's making the crew sluggish. We're all going to fall asleep soon." Zephyra felt her own mind getting foggy. Her thoughts moved slower. Around the bridge, her crew members were swaying at their stations. "Fight it," she commanded, both with her voice and her telepathic abilities. "Everyone stay awake." But it was no use. One by one, her crew collapsed. Zephyra was the last to fall. As darkness closed around her mind, she managed to reach the emergency communications panel. With her last bit of strength, she activated the broad-spectrum distress beacon. The message would go out on all known frequencies, including the restricted channels that most civilized species avoided, the channels used by the Deathworlders. "This is Captain Zephyra of the Villani ship Harmony's Light," she whispered into the transmitter. "We are trapped on what we thought was a garden world. It's not a planet. It's something else. Something that hunts. If anyone receives this message, do not come here. Warn the Confederation. Tell them the old enemy has returned." The transmitter's light went out. The ship's power was failing. Outside, Zephyra could hear new sounds. Heavy footsteps. The screech of metal being torn apart. They were coming inside. As consciousness faded, Zephyra's last thought was a hope that someone, somewhere, had heard her message. Someone who might be strong enough to face whatever ancient horror had trapped them here. In the darkness of space, her message traveled outward at the speed of light. It would take time to reach the nearest civilized worlds, but it would also reach other places, darker places. Worlds where peace was unknown and war was a way of life. Worlds where the inhabitants had learned to fight back against things that hunted in the dark. The message flew toward distant stars, carrying with it the coordinates of a world that was not what it seemed. A world where something ancient and hungry waited for more prey to arrive. And in the deep space between stars, sensors on warships detected the signal. Ships belonging to species that the peaceful Confederation had always feared. Species that had evolved not in gardens, but in hell. The Deathworlders had heard the call and they were coming. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the stars through the massive view screen. Her ship was the largest vessel in Earth's third expeditionary fleet. Around her, 30 other human warships moved through space in perfect formation. The bridge was very different from the peaceful Villani ship. Dark metal walls lined with weapon controls, red warning lights ready to flash at any moment. Everything built for war, not exploration. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Rodriguez from his station. "We're receiving a distress signal on the emergency frequencies." "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a weak, frightened voice came through. It was speaking in Galactic Standard, the language most spacefaring species used. "This is Captain Zephyra of the Villani ship Harmony's Light. We are trapped on what we thought was a garden world. It's not a planet. It's something else. Something that hunts. If anyone receives this message, do not come here. Warn the Confederation. Tell them the old enemy has returned." The message ended with more static. Chen frowned. She knew about the Villani. They were one of the most peaceful species in the galaxy. If something had scared them this badly, it was serious. "Ours," she said to the ship's artificial intelligence. "Analyze that signal." The AI's calm voice filled the bridge. "Analysis complete, Admiral. The signal originated from grid reference 7743 Delta 9. The mention of the old enemy suggests the Devourers, a species thought extinct for over 3,000 years. Chen felt her blood run cold. Every military officer in human space knew the old stories. The Devourers had once swept across the galaxy, consuming entire civilizations. They turned living beings into part of their collective mind, using them as tools and weapons. Ares, who else would have received this signal? The broad-spectrum transmission would reach all ships within 50 light-years. This includes vessels from 47 different species. Of particular note, the signal was also sent on Deathworlder frequencies. Chen smiled grimly. The Deathworlders. That's what the peaceful species called races like humans, species that had evolved on worlds so dangerous that they bred fighters instead of philosophers. Open a channel to the other Deathworlder fleets in this sector, Chen ordered. Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I assume you all heard the Villani distress call. We need to talk. The first response came from General Thrax of the Krogan War Pride. His voice was a deep growl that shook the bridge speakers. Human Admiral, this is General Thrax. My sensors show Krogan ships already moving toward the source. We do not abandon those who call for help. Next came the hissing voice of Hive Queen Zisith of the Nexari Swarm. The Hive Mind agrees. If the Devourers have returned, they must be stopped before they spread. More voices joined the channel. Commander Gorth of the Saurian Hegemony. War Chief Kalthar of the Orcish clans. Captain Xeris of the Mantid Fleet. Species that had fought each other for centuries were now talking about working together. This is unprecedented, Ares whispered to Chen through her personal comm. Deathworlder species have never cooperated on this scale, Chen nodded. But she understood why it was happening. Every Deathworlder species had one thing in common. They had all survived things that tried to kill them. They knew what it meant to fight for survival. All fleet commanders, Chen said into the comm. We rendezvous at coordinates 7743 Delta 9 in 72 hours. Come ready for war. Agreed, growled Thrax. My ships carry enough firepower to crack a moon. The Hive brings 10,000 fighters, added Zesith, each one willing to die for the mission. Chen closed the channel and turned to her crew. All ships prepare for immediate departure. Load heavy weapons. This is not a rescue mission anymore. This is an extermination. Her tactical officer, Commander Park, looked up from his station. Admiral, are you sure about this? Working with the other Deathworlders has never been tried before. That's exactly why it might work, Chen replied. The Devourers conquered the galaxy before because they only faced peaceful species. They've never fought races that evolved in hell. The human fleet began to move, massive engines powered up, pushing the ships faster toward their destination. In the weapon bays, crews loaded quantum torpedoes and plasma cannons. In the marine deck, soldiers checked their powered armor and assault rifles. Chen walked to her personal quarters and activated her private terminal. She pulled up files on the other Deathworlder species they would be working with. The Krogans had evolved on a world of constant earthquakes and radiation storms. They were 8 feet tall, covered in thick hide, and lived for battle. Their ships were built like flying fortresses. The Nexari were insectoid creatures from a gas giant's deep atmosphere. They thought as one mind across millions of bodies. Their fighters moved like swarms of angry wasps. The Saurians came from a world of eternal winter and active volcanoes. They were cold-blooded but hot-tempered, masters of thermal weapons and siege warfare. Each species was dangerous in its own way. But humans had something special. They didn't just survive death. They had learned to enjoy it, to turn violence into art, to make war into something beautiful and terrible. Admiral, Ares said through the comm, long-range sensors are detecting movement from the other Deathworlder fleets. The Krogans are burning their engines at 110%. The Nexari swarm is breaking apart into attack formations. The Saurians are running dark using stealth protocols. And us? The human fleet is maintaining perfect formation while increasing speed beyond safe limits. By comparison with the others, we appear almost calm. Chen laughed. That's because we are calm. The others fight because they have to. We fight because we choose to. There's a difference. She returned to the bridge and watched the stars streak past. Somewhere ahead of them, something ancient and evil was waiting. It had taken peaceful explorers as prey, thinking itself safe. It was about to learn why evolution produced Deathworlders. The hours passed quickly. Chen's fleet joined with others as they approached the coordinates. Soon hundreds of warships from dozens of species moved together through space, ships that had never flown side by side before. Admiral, Rodriguez called, we're receiving a transmission from the Krogan flagship. Put it through. General Thrax's face appeared on the main screen. His species looked like walking tanks covered in natural armor. Battle scars crossed his hide. His eyes glowed with eager anticipation. Human Admiral, he rumbled. My scouts report the target system ahead. The planet shows massive biosignatures. Something very large is alive down there. How large? Large enough to swallow cities. But do not worry. Krogans have fought worse things. Chen smiled. So have we, General. So have we. Behind her, the human fleet's weapons powered up. Ahead of them, an ancient enemy waited. And for the first time in galactic history, the hunters were coming together to hunt something that thought it was the ultimate predator. The Deathworlders were about to show the galaxy what real monsters looked like. The combined Deathworlder fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Admiral Chen stared at her tactical display in shock. What should have been a normal solar system was anything but normal. "Ares, confirm sensor readings," she ordered. "Confirmed, Admiral. The planet designated as the source of the distress signal is not a planet. It is a constructed biological entity, approximately 12,000 kilometers in diameter. Mass readings suggest it is mostly hollow, filled with organic machinery." General Thrax's voice crackled over the comm system. "By the war gods of Krogan, that thing is bigger than our home moon." Hive Queen Zeus's multiple voices spoke as one. "The hive mind detects neural activity across the entire surface. This creature is awake and aware of our presence." Chen studied the long-range scans. The surface of the massive organism rippled like living skin. Deep craters marked places where ships had crashed into it over the centuries, and there, barely visible against the creature's bulk, was the small shape of the Villani ship. "All fleet commanders," Chen transmitted, "form up for rescue operations. Krogan heavy cruisers take point. Nixari fighters provide cover. Human marines will board the Villani ship, Admiral," called her tactical officer. "The creature is showing energy buildups across its surface." As if responding to their presence, the massive bioship began to move. Its surface rippled and sections of its hide opened like massive eyes. From these openings, smaller creatures began to emerge. "Weapons fire incoming," someone shouted. The creature's offspring were each the size of destroyers, but they moved through space like living fish. They fired bolts of organic energy that could punch through starship armor. "All ships return fire," Chen ordered. The space around the bioship erupted in battle. Krogan ships charged forward, their heavy guns blazing. Nixari fighters swarmed around the enemy creatures like angry insects. Saurian vessels fired superheated plasma that melted anything it touched. But something was wrong. Every time they destroyed one of the creatures, two more seemed to take its place. And worse, the enemy seemed to be learning from each attack. "Admiral," Ares reported, "the enemy is adapting to our weapons. Energy shields are becoming more effective against our attacks." Captain Marcus Torres of the human ship Eternal Vigil came on the comm. "Admiral, my science team is detecting something strange. These creatures aren't just fighting us. They're feeding on something." "Feeding on what?" "Fear, Admiral. They're literally eating the fear our crews are feeling." Chen felt a chill run down her spine. She had read the old military reports about the Devourers. They didn't just consume bodies. They fed on terror itself, growing stronger as their victims grew more afraid. "This is bad," General Thrax growled over the comm. "My warriors are brave, but even Krogans can feel fear." Chen smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to do something about that. All human ships implement Protocol Omega." Her bridge crew looked at her in surprise. Protocol Omega was something they had never used in actual battle. It was considered too dangerous, too crazy for real combat. "Admiral," Commander Park said carefully, "are you sure about this?" "Dead sure. Ares, activate all human ship speakers." Full volume. Across the human fleet, speakers roared to life. But instead of military communications, they began broadcasting something else. Music. Loud, violent, joyful music from Earth's most aggressive cultures. Heavy metal guitars screamed across space. Drums pounded like war beats. Human voices sang about death and glory and fighting against impossible odds. "All ships," Chen announced. "Remember what we are. We're not just soldiers. We're humans. We're the species that looked at a world full of things trying to kill us and decided to have fun with it." The change in the human fleet was immediate. Instead of careful military formations, the ships began to move like predators playing with their prey. They painted targets on the enemy creatures and started taking bets on who could score the most kills. "Admiral," Torres reported, and Chen could hear him laughing. "The enemy creatures near our ships are starting to weaken. I think our response is confusing them." Chen understood. The Devourers fed on fear, but humans had learned long ago to transform fear into something else, into excitement, into joy, into the thrill of a good fight. "General Thrax," she called. "Try singing your war songs." "What?" "Trust me. If these things feed on fear, then we need to show them we're not afraid." "We're having fun." Thrax's laughter boomed across the comm system. "I understand now, human admiral. All Krogan ships sing the death songs of our ancestors. The Krogan ships began broadcasting their traditional battle chants, deep rumbling voices that spoke of glory in combat and honor in death. Their ships started ramming the enemy creatures while their crews sang about the joy of warfare. Hive Queen Zusheth caught on quickly. The Hive will broadcast harmonics of the hunt song, the frequency that speaks of the pleasure of pursuing prey. Soon all the Deathworlder ships were filling space with sounds that no civilized species would understand. The sounds of predators who had learned to love the hunt. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and dramatic. The creatures that had been growing stronger now began to weaken and retreat. Their adaptive shields failed. Their weapons became less accurate. They can't process it, Chen realized. They've spent thousands of years feeding on the fear of civilized species. They don't know what to do with creatures that enjoy violence. The boarding teams reached the Villani ship and found survivors. But the rescue was almost worse than the initial attack. The Villani who were still alive had been partially connected to the creature's nervous system. Organic cables ran from their skulls into the ship's walls. "Admiral," Torres reported from the boarding party. "The survivors are alive, but they're being used as biological computers. The creature is processing their thoughts and memories. Can we disconnect them?" "Working on it. But Admiral, there's something else. The creature has been using their minds to access Galactic Confederation databases. It knows the locations of every peaceful world in known space." Chen felt her blood turn cold. "How many worlds?" "Over 10,000 inhabited systems, Admiral. And according to the data we're finding, this isn't the only creature like this. There are dozens of them sleeping throughout the galaxy." The battle around them continued, but Chen now understood the real scope of the threat. The Devourers weren't just one creature that had survived. They were a network of bioships waiting to wake up and consume every peaceful civilization in the galaxy. "All fleet commanders," she transmitted. "We have a bigger problem than we thought." As the Deathworlder fleets fought to destroy the awakened bioship, Chen looked at the tactical display showing dozens of similar signatures scattered across known space. The peaceful species of the Confederation had no idea they were surrounded by sleeping nightmares. But now the nightmares were waking up. And only the Deathworlders stood between them and billions of innocent lives. The real war was just beginning. The massive bioship writhed in space as the Deathworlder fleets tore into it. But Admiral Chen knew they were fighting more than just one creature. They were fighting a network that had been learning from every battle for thousands of years. "Admiral," Ares reported, "the creature is transmitting data to other locations across the galaxy. It's sharing everything it learns about our tactics." "Cut those transmissions," Chen ordered, unable to comply. "The transmission method is biological, not technological. We would need to destroy the creature's brain centers." "Where are they?" "Scattered throughout the organism. There are at least 50 major neural nodes." General Thrax's voice boomed over the comm. "Then we destroy them all. Krogan ships prepare for deep penetration attacks." But as the Krogan heavy cruisers moved in for close-range strikes, the bioship responded. Its surface opened up like a flower, revealing thousands of smaller creatures inside. Each one was perfectly designed to counter the Krogan attack pattern. "It's learning too fast," Hive Queen Zusheth observed. "Every time we adapt, it adapts faster." Chen watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. Traditional military thinking said they should retreat, regroup, and plan a more careful assault. But traditional military thinking was exactly what the Devourers expected. "All ships," she announced, "forget everything you know about proper tactics. From now on, we fight like Deathworlders." "What do you mean, Admiral?" asked Captain Torres. Chen smiled. "I mean we stop fighting like a military and start fighting like the products of evolution. Airs, patch me through to all ship captains. Channel open. Listen carefully, all of you. The enemy expects us to be logical. It expects us to follow patterns. But we didn't evolve to be logical. We evolved to survive. So let's show this thing what real survival instincts look like." She turned to her own crew. "Navigation, plot a collision course with the creature's largest neural cluster." "Admiral," Commander Park protested. "That's suicide." "No, that's human. We're the species that invented the cavalry charge, the kamikaze attack, and the last stand. Sometimes the best tactic is the one that makes no sense." The human ships began moving in seemingly random patterns. Instead of coordinated attacks, each captain started fighting according to their own instincts. Some ships dove straight into the creature's defensive fire. Others retreated and then attacked from unexpected angles. The effect was immediate. The bioship's adaptive systems couldn't keep up with completely unpredictable behavior. All Deathworlder fleets, Chen transmitted. Stop trying to be an army. Start being what you are. Be the descendants of every creature that refused to die. General Thrax understood first. Krogan ships break formation. Fight like our ancestors fought the great beasts of our homeworld. The Krogan vessels scattered and began attacking like pack hunters. They surrounded individual enemy creatures and tore them apart with close-range weapons. The Nexari swarm dissolved into millions of individual fighters, each one following its own attack pattern. They moved like a real insect swarm, impossible to predict or counter. The Saurians went completely silent, using every stealth system they had. They struck from ambush, appearing just long enough to deliver devastating attacks before vanishing again. "Admiral," Torres reported from inside the bioship, "the creature's neural activity is becoming chaotic. I think we're confusing its collective mind." "Good. Keep it confused. How are the Villani survivors?" "We've disconnected most of them, but Admiral, what they've told us, it's worse than we thought. This creature has been dormant for 3,000 years, but it's been dreaming. It's been planning. Planning what? The consumption of the entire galaxy. It has detailed maps of every peaceful civilization, every trade route, every defense system, and it's already sent wake-up signals to the other bioships." Chen felt ice in her stomach. "How many others?" 47 confirmed contacts, Admiral. And they're all moving toward inhabited systems. The battle around them reached a crescendo as the Deathworlder fleets literally tore the bioship apart, but Chen knew that killing one creature wouldn't be enough. They needed to stop all of them. "All fleet commanders," she transmitted. "Emergency conference. We've got a galaxy to save." The command crews gathered via hologram on the human flagship. General Thrax stood like a mountain of scarred hide and battle-tested armor. Hive Queen Zusith appeared as a shimmering collection of insectoid forms. Commander Gorth of the Saurians materialized as a tall, cold-eyed reptilian figure. "The situation is simple," Chen said. 47 bioships are heading toward populated systems. We can't be everywhere at once. Then we split our forces, Thrax suggested. Each species takes responsibility for certain regions. "No," Zusith disagreed. "The hive mind calculates that isolated forces will be defeated. These creatures learn. By the time we reach the last few, they will be prepared for everything we can do." Chen studied the tactical display showing the movements of the bioships. "There's another option. We don't chase them. We get there first." "Explain," Gorth hissed. "These things are heading for the most populated systems first. They want maximum fear to feed on. But what if those systems weren't full of afraid civilians when they arrived? You want to evacuate entire star systems?" Thrax asked. "No, I want to fill them with Deathworlders." The alien commanders stared at her. Chen continued. "Every one of our species has colony ships, military bases, and frontier settlements scattered across space. We pull them all back to the target systems. Instead of finding helpless prey, these creatures will find worlds full of armed predators waiting for them. The logistics alone," Gorth started, "will be impossible using normal methods." Chen agreed. "But we're not normal, are we? We're the species that built civilizations on worlds that actively tried to kill us. If anyone can relocate entire populations in weeks instead of months, it's us." Hive Queen Zusith's forms shifted as she considered. "The Hive approves. We will summon all Nexari vessels to defensive positions around key systems. Krogan colonies will deploy immediately," Thrax rumbled. "My people live for this kind of challenge." "Saurian stealth fleets will provide early warning and harassment," Gorth added. Chen nodded. "And Human Engineering Corps will fortify every system we can reach. When these bioships arrive, they'll find fortress worlds instead of gardens." "Admiral," Ares interrupted, "long-range sensors are detecting the approach of Galactic Confederation forces. A large fleet of peaceful species is heading this way." "They probably detected our battle," Chen realized, "and they're coming to investigate. Should we warn them away?" Torres asked. Chen thought for a moment. "No, let them come. It's time the peaceful species learned what's been lurking in their galaxy all along." As the Deathworlder fleets prepared to spread across known space, Chen looked at the wreckage of the bioship they had just destroyed. Pieces of organic technology drifted in space, still twitching with alien life. For thousands of years, the peaceful species had built their civilization thinking they were safe. They had never known that apex predators slept in the darkness between stars, waiting for the right moment to hunt. But now the predators were awake, and they were about to discover that evolution had produced something they had never encountered before, prey that had learned to hunt back. The galaxy was about to become a very different place. 6 months later, Admiral Chen stood in the ruins of what had once been the core of a devourer bioship. Her boots crunched on crystallized organic matter as she walked through the dead creature's neural center. This was the last one. The 47th and final bioship had been destroyed, but victory had come at a terrible cost. "Final casualty reports, Admiral," Commander Park said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "We've lost 60% of the combined Deathworlder fleets, over 2 million military personnel dead or missing." Chen nodded silently. She had known the price would be high. Fighting ancient predators required becoming predators themselves, and predators died in large numbers. What about civilian casualties? Surprisingly low. The evacuation and fortification programs worked. Most peaceful species got their populations to safety before the bioships arrived. Chen smiled grimly. The Deathworlder species had proven something important. They could protect as well as destroy. When threatened civilizations needed defenders, the galaxy's barbarians had answered the call. "Admiral," came the voice of Captain Torres over the comm. "The Galactic Confederation fleet is requesting permission to board." "Let them come." Torres had been with her for the entire campaign. His ship, the Eternal Vigil, had been one of the few human vessels to survive all 47 battles. He looked older now, with gray in his hair and new scars on his face. "How do you think they'll react?" he asked. "Badly," Chen replied. "They wanted to be saved, but they never expected salvation to have so many teeth." The Confederation representatives arrived an hour later. Ambassador Velnara of the Villani led the group. She was the sister of Captain Zephyra, who had sent the original distress call. Zephyra had survived her ordeal, but she was changed. The peaceful explorer now understood what lurked in the galaxy's dark places. "Admiral Chen," Velnara said, her telepathic voice formal and cold. "The Galactic Confederation Council has asked me to deliver their official response to recent events." "I'm listening." "First, they offer their gratitude for the protection provided by the Deathworlder species. The civilian populations you saved number in the hundreds of billions." Chen waited. She could sense there was more coming. "However," Velnara continued, "the Council is deeply disturbed by the methods used. The destruction was extensive. Entire star systems have been left uninhabitable. Some Council members question whether the cure was worse than the disease." Chen felt anger rise in her chest. "The cure? Ambassador, we didn't cause this problem. We solved it. Those bioships would have consumed every peaceful world in the galaxy. Perhaps, but now the galaxy is full of armed Deathworlder settlements. Military bases where there used to be research stations. Fortress worlds where there used to be gardens. Many species are asking, who will protect us from our protectors?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Chen looked around at the dead alien technology surrounding them. Every piece of it had been designed to consume, control, and terrify civilized beings. "Ares," she said to her AI. "Display the pre-war galactic map." A holographic star chart appeared, showing the galaxy as it had been 6 months ago. Thousands of peaceful worlds connected by trade routes and diplomatic channels. A civilization based on exploration, science, and cooperation. "Now show the post-war map." The display changed. Many of the same worlds were there, but now they were connected by military patrol routes and defense networks. Deathworlder colonies dotted the space between peaceful systems like armed guards. "You're right, Ambassador," Chen said. "The galaxy has changed, but let me show you something else. Ares, display the projected map if the Devourers had won." The hologram shifted again. This time it showed a galaxy of empty space. No civilizations, no trade routes, no colonies. Just dead worlds stripped of all life, orbiting silent stars. "That's what your choice really was," Chen continued. "Not between peace and war, between existence and extinction." General Thrax stepped forward from where he had been standing silently. The Krogan commander was covered in bandages from his final battle, but his eyes still burned with determination. "The human admiral speaks truth," he rumbled. "For thousands of years, your peaceful species lived in a bubble. You thought the galaxy was safe because you made it safe for yourselves, but you never looked in the dark corners." Hive Queen Zeseth materialized beside him, her multiple forms shifting in complex patterns. The hive mind has calculated probabilities. Without Deathworlder intervention, 87% of galactic civilization would have been consumed within 1 standard year. Ambassador Velnara's mental voice grew colder. "And now? What happens now that the Deathworlders have saved us? Do you expect us to simply accept permanent military occupation?" Chen walked to the chamber's main viewport and looked out at space. In the distance, she could see ships from a dozen different Deathworlder species patrolling the area. They worked together now in ways that would have been impossible before the war. "No, Ambassador. We don't want to occupy your worlds. But we're not going back to the way things were either." "What do you mean?" Chen turned back to face the Confederation representatives. "I mean, the age of innocence is over. Your species spent thousands of years believing that intelligence meant peace and cooperation. But intelligence without strength is just food for the things that hunt in the dark." She gestured to the alien representatives. "You can return to your peaceful worlds. You can rebuild your research stations and your trade networks. But you'll do it knowing that there are guardians watching the borders. Deathworlders standing between you and the next threat that comes crawling out of the void. And if we refuse this protection, then you'll face the next crisis alone. And there will be a next crisis, Ambassador. The galaxy is a dangerous place. It always has been. You just forgot that for a while." Velnara's telepathic presence wavered with uncertainty. "The Council will need time to consider your proposal. Take all the time you need. We'll be here." After the Confederation representatives left, Chen remained in the dead bioship's core chamber. Torres joined her at the viewport. "Think they'll accept the new reality?" he asked. "Some will. Others will try to go back to the way things were. They'll demand that we withdraw our forces and let them return to pure pacifism." "And?" Chen smiled. "And they'll discover that their own children disagree with them. Captain Zephyra isn't the only peaceful species member who's been changed by recent events. A lot of them have seen what's really out there. They won't be content to hide behind philosophy anymore." She was right. In the months that followed, recruitment offices opened on dozens of peaceful worlds. Young members of traditionally non-violent species signed up to train with Deathworlder militaries. They wanted to learn how to fight, how to protect their homes, how to be more than just potential victims. The Galactic Confederation eventually split into 2 groups. The Peaceful Confederation maintained their traditional ways, but accepted Deathworlder protection. The Reformed Confederation began developing their own military capabilities, trained by the species who had saved them. Chen eventually retired from active service and became the first director of the Galactic Defense Coordination Council. It was a new organization that managed cooperation between all the galaxy's military forces, both Deathworlder and otherwise. On her last day as a fleet admiral, she returned to the coordinates where Captain Zephyra had sent her desperate message. A monument now stood there, built from pieces of the destroyed bioship. It honored both the peaceful species who had died and the Deathworlders who had given their lives to save them. The inscription was simple. "Here the hunters learned to hunt together." Chen read those words and smiled. The galaxy was no longer the peaceful garden it had once been, but it was alive, and sometimes that was enough. In the deep space beyond the monument, new patrol ships moved through the darkness. They flew the flags of a dozen different species, all working together to watch for threats that might emerge from the void. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. They had become the galaxy's guardians, and they would remain vigilant, because they knew a truth that the peaceful species were only beginning to understand. In a universe full of things that hunted in the dark, the only real safety came from being the most dangerous thing in the darkness. The galaxy had learned to bare its teeth, and it would never be helpless again.